All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Noelle. She's the community director here. Good to be with you all tonight, and welcome to all of you online people. I don't know which camera to look in anymore, but one of these cameras. Hey, we're glad you're a part of this community. We're glad you're here tonight from whatever state you're joining us from, or sober living, or treatment center, kitchen, living room, bathroom, wherever you're joining us from. We're glad you're here and part of this community. To remind you all, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And we remind each other each and every Saturday night the one thing we don't do. And y'all can count it out. I'll count, and on the count of three, you can shout out all four words together as loud as you can. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame in this community, but Noelle will tell you some other things happening in this. Is your mic not on?
It's on.
Check.
Check.
There it is.
Ooh, there I am.
They always work magic in the back.
If it's your first night here with us, welcome. We are so glad you are here. Right outside this door, we have some welcome bags. They have a little bit about what we do here at Free Spiritual Community, a little bit about what Wagon Coffee does. There's some fresh roasted Wagon Coffee in there as well, and also some free swag items. So please grab one on your way out and just know that we are so grateful that you're here with us tonight. There's a couple people in between services that came up to me, and it was their first night here. So we have a lot of new faces here tonight.
Welcome new people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to have
we are
you.
so glad you're here. September 14th, it's a Thursday. That's going to be our next sober open mic night. So it's in this room from 7 to 9. Y'all know that we team up with the Phoenix for this event. It's always a great time. So we're calling all comedians, singers, songwriters. We've even had, people do like juggling and gymnastics off this stage.
We've had some crazy things happen on the stage.
You do preach every Saturday.
That's true.
So
that's true.
So we only take 12 people, so please register quickly. Spots always fill up. CARE, Colorado Artists in Recovery, and Sparrow Sober Living, they're our sponsors for this event. So from 7 to 9, we'll be in this room. And the cool thing about Sober Open Mic Night is it's a lot of people new in recovery that are really kind of showcasing their talents for the first time sober. So come support them. This room, 7 to 9, and the cafe will be open beforehand. So you can grab a cup of coffee and come hang out, and that's Thursday, September 14th. We have added 2 new meetings here at Free, so that's really exciting. On Tuesdays from 1 to 2, it's an open women's 11th step meeting, so prayer and meditation meeting, and it's in this room in the back couches. So that's Tuesday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And then on Saturdays, a lot of y'all know that we had a ACA meeting start a few months ago on Thursdays. It's at noon.
Tell people what ACA stands for.
Adult Children of Alcoholics. It's an incredible group. My mom was actually a part of that meeting, but we had our staff meeting here Thursday, and that room was packed. I went to the bathroom during our staff meeting, and there's probably 25 people in there. It was crazy. So anyway, we have that meeting on Thursdays at noon, but they are doing a book study on Saturdays from 1 to 2:15. So we have our trauma-informed yoga, our free yoga that we offer here from 11:15 to 12:15, and they wanted to do it after trauma-informed yoga, so you could hit a yoga class and then hit the ACA book study. So
it's like they want to be super healthy.
They're super healthy. And y'all, if you want to be super healthy, come check out one of these new meetings or any of our meetings. There are meeting schedules that you can take in our flyers stand in the hallway when you walk in the front doors.
Yes, and going back to Sober Open Mic Night, 12 people can perform, but that doesn't mean we can all come and cheer these people on. So it's
100 of y'all can sit. 12 people are performing.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Noelle. Can you give that microphone to Scott and Adam? Or I'll give the other one to Scott or Adam. Hey, the way we get started here on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We just save it for the end. But we start with the good. We start with the celebrations, the good stuff. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or the new thing in life. Maybe it's a new baby, new job, new home, whatever the new thing is. We want to celebrate it with you. A very important part of our time together to share in that. And we believe that God always joins with us in the celebrations. If you're online during this time, So I'm looking at you all. If you're online, just drop your celebration in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments, and we'll celebrate with you there. Scott and Adam will pass around a mic. You can just lift up your hand. We'll take 3 minutes. Give us the celebration. This time is yours.
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name's Anton, and I'd like to just acknowledge and celebrate that my daughter Emma has been clean from, among other things, fentanyl for 6 months.
Way to go, Emma.
Hey guys, Bobby here with the tech team. My dear friend Kavita celebrates 7 years today. She's not here. She was having car troubles, but let's all celebrate Kavita. 7 years.
Kavita.
My name's Blake. I've got 62 days today, and I feel fucking great.
All right, dude. Congratulations.
Hi, my name's Gerald, and today I'm celebrating 6 years without a drink.
All right, Gerald. Way to go, buddy.
Hi, my name is Stacy, and I celebrate 33 days clean and sober. And I moved here from Kansas City, starting a new life in Colorado.
All right. Glad you're here. Congratulations.
I'm Kai, and I have 169 days free of fentanyl.
Way to go, Kai. Woo-woo.
I'm Allison, and I'm celebrating a new job opportunity.
Way to go, Allison.
My name is Chris, and I'd like to celebrate the fact that when hanging out with my 20-year-old daughter last weekend, she looked at me and said, I feel like I have my dad back.
That's the good stuff, brother.
I'm Whitney, and I'd like to celebrate my boyfriend, Jonathan. He has 2 years clean this week.
All right, way to go, Jonathan.
I'm Courtney, and I just want to celebrate my husband, Buddy, is 252 days sober today.
Woo! Way to go, buddy.
I'm Ashley, and I'm celebrating my son, Dominic, who has 48 days, and we're from Steamboat, visiting him.
All right. Congratulations.
My name is Mario. I'm a grateful alcoholic, and I am grateful that my daughter has 2 days clean and sober today.
All right, man.
My name's Jeff, and last Saturday I turned 60. Lord willing, and the creek doesn't rise, on the 29th of this month, I'll celebrate 30 years.
Way to go, dude. That's a long time.
I'm Sarah. I'm 88 days sober and so happy about it.
Way to go, Sarah. We're happy about it, too. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Scott. Tammy Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen, is joining me up here.
Hi, guys.
And we get to celebrate with our online people.
Yes, we do.
I love the hat, by the way.
Thank you.
Ooh, sexy.
Doing some cafe work tonight, so there you go.
All right. Tammy's helping in the cafe, making some coffee.
Hey,
all right, you want
Martha.
the first one?
Yeah. Grateful for an unforgettable trip with my daughter, Dara. Yeah. That was a
All
good
right.
trip.
Dara's
I heard a little
here
about
tonight.
it.
Mike says, celebrated my 60th birthday last Saturday and also watched my grandson beat the #1 team in the state. His team is number 2. All right, Mike, we're celebrating that with you, dude. That's good news.
And Kay says, today we celebrated my fiance Josh's 37th birthday, and I started school recently and got an A in my first class.
Way to go, Kay. Leslie says her son Colin started college at Seattle University mid-September, starting college in mid-September.
Yes.
All right, we're going to
Awesome.
celebrate that, Leslie and John.
Good to
and
see you
Colin.
here, Leslie. And Monica, I'm moving into my new apartment this weekend. Awesome, Monica.
All right, good luck, Monica. Christy says, celebrating Jen being 4 years sober, our life together is such a blessing. with her in recovery, and I don't take any of it for granted. Thankful for God's amazing grace. Chrissy, we're celebrating you and Jen.
Awesome, Jen. That's the good stuff, yeah.
That is the good stuff. 4 years is a long time.
And James says, 138 days clean off crack cocaine. God and free is good all the time.
Way to go, James.
James.
I believe that was the last one.
I heard the sermon is good tonight, so I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Well, are you going to be in here?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about you. I got a story about you.
Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave.
Yeah, you might want to go make coffee during this one. She thinks I'm kidding. It's not a bad story. It ended well. All right, y'all. Speaking of stories, man, the last 2 weeks we did our F-Fentanyl series, and man, it was good, wasn't it? 2 weeks of addressing something so important happening in our community, and I almost said a good buzz around here. Y'all know what I mean. It was a good vibe here, and y'all came together and loved each other, and we took a hard topic, and y'all participated in the conversation and showed up, and thank you. It was, maybe we'll do it again. But tonight, because all good things must come to an end, tonight for the next 5 weeks, we are starting a new series. It'll take us all the way through September, and this one is called Rooted. So it's really fascinating that there's all kinds of research about how the invention of electricity affected the number of hours that people actually sleep. Because see, prior to electricity, when the sun went down, it was obviously nature's way of saying, lights out, the day's over, it's time for you to get your butt in bed. And the following day, when the sun would come up, it was obviously creation's way of saying, a new day is here. We're going to flip the switch. The lights are coming on. It's time for you to get out of bed and get your day started. You see, with the invention of electrical light, people began having more control over light and dark, gradually living more independently of the natural rhythms of nature, rhythms like waking and sleeping. So in 2017, Tammy and I, along with a team of people, we were in Rusinga Island, Kenya, which is in Africa, by the way. Rusinga Island is one of the most impoverished places in the world. They still have a very high HIV/AIDS death rate, a very high death rate of malaria. It's a very poor region and some of the absolute most beautiful people you'd ever meet. And we were there that year and the year before that and the year before that. We were doing women's empowerment projects and library projects and microfinancing business projects. And each time that I was there, the pastor of the church that we were in partnership with in this little village called Rusinga Island, well, he would invite me to come preach on that Sunday if we were in town. So that Sunday, we arrived at 8:30 in the morning because the service is supposed to start at 9 a.m. So we get there at 8:30. It's a beautiful day. It's cloudy, but a beautiful day. And we get in, and by 9 o'clock, like it was totally empty in there. And the service is supposed to start at 9 o'clock. By 9:30, there was a few people sitting in the front couple of rows, and they were singing and dancing and laughing and just having like the time of their life, but it's empty in there. And finally, by 9:45, I'm sitting up on the stage area with the pastor, and I said to the pastor, I said, dude, what's going on? It's like empty in here. I said, is it me? Did I say something last time I was here to offend your people? Now they don't come back. And y'all, he said something to me. And you know how people can say something to you that makes you feel like you're just so incredibly stupid and everyone in the world knows this except for you, Ryan? That's how that moment felt. And he looked at me, he said, Ryan, you must be patient. My people will come. But they tell the time with the sun and look outside. It's much too cloudy. They were living by the natural rhythms of nature. I'm not used to this. And sure enough, by 10 a.m., the church was filled up with people. But do you see how in the modern world, in this modern developed world, we have more control, don't we? You can actually go to King Soopers at 2 a.m. in January to buy your tomatoes to make your salsa the next day. We have control. You can live independent of the natural seasons that are happening all around you, seasons like night and day and summer and winter and clouds and no clouds. But do you also see how in the modern world, we can so easily lose a sense that there are seasons and new seasons happening all around us. And these seasons come and then they go. They arrive and then they leave and new seasons begin. So I share this with you all to give you the reminder that in your life, in your recovery, you will encounter new seasons. And even in the modern developed world, you don't get to decide when these seasons come and when they go, but you do get to decide how you will respond to each season, how you will welcome and embrace and live into each season. And it's fascinating because like the ancient sages and mystics and wisdom teachers, they were always talking about the seasons, always pointing to the seasons and the importance of the changing of seasons. Like the wisdom teacher in the Old Testament wisdom book of Ecclesiastes. Anyone heard of Ecclesiastes? It's a beautiful book. The wisdom teacher in this book says this about the seasons. Are you ready for this? It's 9 verses. I'm going to read it fast. Here's how he puts it. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And oh my goodness, did he miss anything? 9 verses. That one passage has 28 seasons. Now, the singer-songwriter Pete Seeger, anyone heard of Pete Seeger? Yeah, he was so impressed with this passage, this scripture, that he decided to write a song, which was these words verbatim, wrote this in 1959. Do you know what it was called? Turn, turn, turn. There is a season turn. I'm not going to sing it. Y'all know that. I'm not at the sober open mic night. It's the same song that the Byrds, remember the Byrds? They came along and in 1965 turned this song into a hit single that topped the Billboard charts. Now, here's what I know about seasons. New seasons can be terrifying, can't they? Oh my goodness, absolutely terrifying. And if a season has ended, that means that another one is beginning. Even if it feels like one isn't beginning, it's beginning. You know, the ancient sages and mystics and wisdom teachers, they also talked about the in-between seasons. They call this liminal space, that kind of season where you just feel like you're floating because you don't know what's next, but this too is a new season. And see, the thing about seasons is new seasons, they often feel like an uprooting, don't they? So the question I would pose to you tonight is, how do you stay rooted when it feels like your life is being completely uprooted? Think about all the new seasons you've been through in your recovery. Whether you're in recovery from addiction or recovery from being addicted to the addict in your life. Think about all the new seasons. How about the new season of being new in recovery? Man, that thing's scary, isn't it? You don't know how to live in that thing. It's new. I was just talking to a friend of mine this week over the phone, and he came to the end of his own sources. You might call this his bottom. And I'm talking to him. He says, Ryan, you know what's so hard about this? I am so used to like having messes in my life, but I just positively think my way out of the mess. And he says, with this mess, I cannot positively think my way out. I've tried, it doesn't work. Yeah, that new season of surrender, that can be scary. Or how about maybe you're in a new season in your recovery where you're realizing that the family dynamics have changed. I mean, in addiction, you had this role, but now in recovery, you're in this role. Your role in the family has changed. Well, that can be a new season, can it? Or maybe it's a season of like you're actually figuring out now what it means to handle conflict. You used to know how to handle conflict when you were active in your addiction. You would make a greater mess of things, or you would just simply disappear. You'd pick up a drink, pick up a drug, and then you're out and you avoid the conflict. Where's Ryan? I don't know. Where's Ryan? I don't know. Now you're actually trying to figure out what it looks like to handle and manage relationships in a healthy way. Or maybe for you, it's a new season of figuring out what it means for you to actually turn things over. Oh my goodness, you're not living by your own principles anymore. You actually have a prayer life. That can be a new season. You're actually figuring out what it means to live into spiritual principles and not the principles of your own self-will. Or how about this one? How about that season, that new season, when good starts to come your way? Man, that can be scary, isn't it? In your recovery, when the good starts to happen, and you say, no, it's good, it's not scary. Man, it's scary because so many of us, we don't know how to handle that. We're still stuck in all those old narratives of, oh, I'm not worthy of the good. I don't deserve this. And when the good happens, well, I'm just going to wait for the next shoe to drop. Yeah. How many people do you know who relapsed in their recovery when the good started to come their way? And sometimes, is it true? Sometimes the season can be good, but you can't see the good in the moment because it just feels really freaking hard. Anyone been there? Yeah, June 2018. Some of y'all know that was a very significant new season in the Canada household. Some of y'all know that June 2018 is when we launched Free in our backyard, is when we started having weekly gatherings in our backyard. Do you know what happened the second week of launching Free? See, I was still one of the lead pastors at the church where I was serving. We were doing Free on the side. It was like the side gig. And here I am sitting in my office at the church, and I'm meeting with someone, and my phone rings. And it's my wife, Tammy. And I decide, you know what, this meeting's about to end, so I'll wrap things up, then I'll call her back so the phone stops ringing, but then the phone immediately rings again, and it's Tammy again. So I said to the person sitting across from me, I said, you know what, I'm going to take this, I'm going to see what she needs, so bear with me for just a moment, my apologies. Hello? You need to come home immediately. And y'all, the way she said it, I thought someone had died. So I said, who died? To which she responded, it's not that. It's the opposite. I just took a pregnancy test. You need to come home immediately. Click. Y'all, she was not exactly seeing the good in the moment. And for the whole 7-minute Honda Ruckus scooter ride home, I am thinking to myself, how did this happen? I mean, I know how it happened, but how did this happen? This was not in Ryan and Tammy's plan. We did not plan for this. In fact, we planned the exact opposite. Because the week before this, we gave everything away. The crib, the baby clothes, everything that was baby oriented, we got it out of the house because we were so sure 3 kids was the number we were landing on. 3 weeks before that, I got a beautiful tattoo on my hand, and it says 3 blessings, not 4. Hence, having to add the +1. So I get home. Tammy was angry. She was frustrated. She was in fear, just like I was in fear. And I was like in exile, if you know what I mean. She didn't want to touch me, didn't want anything to do with me for a while. Man, we didn't expect it. It wasn't in our plan. This was a new season. We were in fear. And can you believe it? Sometimes I'll look at this 4-year-old little boy, Bricks, when he's sleeping. And I'll think to myself, man, can you believe there was actually a day where I wondered if this was going to be good? Whew. The joy that he brings into our family, the joy that he brings into our lives. You see, sometimes a season is good, but you can't see the good in the moment because it feels just really freaking hard. And sometimes, let's just be honest, the season is really freaking hard because you're dealing with loss, a season of loss. Maybe some of you are there right now. Loss of a job, or loss of a relationship, or loss of an identity, or loss of a loved one who lost the battle to this brutal disease of addiction. And y'all, what I know about new seasons is they always bring with them a sense of a lack of control. It's an uprooting, and things are different. And the question remains, how will you stay rooted when it feels like your life is being completely uprooted? So what I want to do with you for just a couple of minutes is look at this ancient poem. It actually comes from the Psalms. It's the first Psalm. And if you're a bit fuzzy on the Psalms are they're found in the Old Testament. They're just an ancient collection of different poems and prayers. And I love the Psalms because they capture every single human emotion, every single human experience, and they put words to it. They articulate it. They help us understand ourselves. There's 150 of these Psalms. In fact, if you were to open up a Bible right to the middle, chances are you are going to land somewhere in the Psalms. This is the very first Psalm. It's the beginning of the poem in the first Psalm, and it reads like this. Happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or take the path that sinners tread, or sit in the seat of scoffers. But their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law they meditate day and night. They are like trees planted. Some versions say transplanted, by the way. Hold on to that. They are like trees planted by streams of water, which yield their fruit in its season, and their leaves do not wither, and all they do, they prosper. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, why would the first psalm, when they put this thing together, all the psalms, why would they start with themes of happiness and trees and being rooted? I mean, why start there? Because it's interesting that the ones who were hearing this for the first time, they were literally living in captivity in a foreign land. Very important date in history. You probably learned about this date in your high school textbooks, but you have forgotten, so I will remember with you. I will remind you. 587 BC. The Babylonians, they came into Jerusalem. They ransacked the city, totally destroyed the temple. They did awful things to the men, women, and children. And then they took the survivors out of their homeland and into this foreign land called Babylon, where they were forced into slavery, working 7 days a week. Now, if you are a Hebrew person living in ancient Israel, what is the number one thing, the most important thing to you that keeps you rooted? It's the temple. I mean, the temple, it was the center of life for them. It's what kept them grounded. It was their meeting space, their sacred space, and the Babylonians destroyed the temple. Now, if you are a Hebrew person living in ancient Israel, what's the number one practice that keeps you rooted? Sabbath. On the seventh day, you rest. You don't do any work. The natural rhythms of creation, you rest, you play, you engage in your passions, but you do not do any work. Now, here they are living in Babylon, no temple, no Sabbath. Can you imagine? You're one among the Hebrew people sitting in Babylon, and someone starts to read this poem. Happy are those. And someone chirps up, we're going to start with happiness? We're going to talk about happiness? Have you forgotten where we are? We are in Babylon. They have taken everything from us. We can't even be who we're supposed to be. They've taken our identity, the temple, the Sabbath. They've taken everything. And you want to talk about happiness? And the psalm says, yeah, we're going to talk about happiness. Who are the happy? Their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law they meditate day and night. But wait a minute, I mean, what's the law? Because when we hear the law today, we think of rules and regulations or maybe law enforcement. That's not the law they're talking about. The law is their scripture, the Torah, the first 5 books of what we now have as the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. What was central to their story? The Exodus. So being in this foreign land of Babylon isn't exactly a new story to them. This is part of their story. Because remember the Exodus, they were taken into slavery in Egypt, where they lived under the rule of Pharaoh, and they're crying out, God, where are you? God, how come you don't rescue us? God, do you even care for us? And the text says God hears the cries of the people and sends Moses to go rescue them and lead them out of Egypt into this new land. What is this first psalm doing? It is giving the people spiritual principles to live by in this new season. What are the spiritual principles? Acceptance and meditation. What this psalm is essentially saying to them is, you want to keep your wits? You want happiness? You want peace? We cannot change the situation. We cannot change the circumstance. I know it's hard. I know it sucks. I know they have taken things from us and our lives have been totally uprooted, but we cannot change the situation. Acceptance. And what's the psalm go on to say? But when we can quiet our minds enough, when we can be still enough, when we can remember our story, the rescue, and who God is, it will be like we are being transplanted, being trees planted by the streams of water flowing from the temple. Because there's other images that tell us that there was a stream of water, a river flowing from the temple, nourishing every tree and every leaf on its banks. And so this psalm says, when we can remember our story together, it will be like being transplanted to the temple streams where we are nourished, where we are cared for. But we must remember together that no matter what we go through, no matter the season we encounter, we are going to be cared for. And how does he say it? Meditate on these things day and night. Don't ever forget your story. You see, my brothers and sisters, in your life, in your recovery, you will undoubtedly encounter those new seasons. And yes, it can be terrifying. Yes, it will sometimes feel like everything's being taken from you. It will sometimes feel like you have been dragged away from your home and into this new land. And let's just be honest, you don't know how to live in this new land. And yes, it will sometimes feel like everything you thought you knew, you don't know anymore. And how will you stay rooted when it feels like your life is being uprooted? Perhaps you can consider the suggestions given in that very first psalm: acceptance and meditation. And by the way, what is acceptance? Acceptance is simply coming to terms with your limitations. Yeah, you don't get to control when the seasons of life come and when they go. But you do get to control your response and how you live into and embrace each season. You cannot control or change the circumstance. And I know that's a harsh reality many of us discover in recovery, because we want to change everything and everyone around us. Or some of us, we just want to go back to the way things used to be. And many of y'all know you can't go back. The only way is forward. You want happiness. In other words, you want to stay rooted in the things that matter most. That requires a change within. That requires a new perspective, a new set of glasses, a new set of spiritual principles. You know, there's a beautiful passage in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It comes from page 417, and it describes acceptance this way. It says, acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. When I'm disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, or thing, or situation, some fact of my life, and facts can't be changed, unacceptable to me. Unless I accept my life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. And by the way, what's a practice that can help lead you toward acceptance? Meditation. And y'all, don't let any spiritual teacher or religious leader or spiritual guru overcomplicate meditation for you. Keep it simple, because I know some of us say, well, you just got to understand, I don't have 6 hours in my day to get out the mat and then sit down with my legs crossed and just go, Well, not exactly meditation. I mean, maybe that's meditation for you. If that's you, well, all respect to you. Glad you get to do that. You do know you can meditate as you walk. You can even meditate while you're driving. You can meditate in the comfort of your own living room at the kitchen table. Because see, meditation, what is meditation? It's when we quiet ourselves long enough, being still long enough to remember your story, who you are. In that moment, when you remember, in that moment, a change within occurs and new perspective then in that moment becomes possible. You can do that in seconds. You can do it in minutes. You see, do you remember your story? Do you remember the rescue? Do you remember the God who came to you when you had nothing left, when you were living in the slavery of your addiction? And what's the response? Meditate. Meditate on these things day and night. Remember these things always. Never forget your story. Because you see, all of it belongs. Even those really hard seasons. Everything belongs. Every season belongs. And in recovery, we don't get to numb out the seasons anymore, do we? No. We actually get to face that season, embrace that season with new perspective and new spiritual principles to live by. So what we're going to do now is go all the way back to 1965 with a band called The Birds. Here's Turn, 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 and I invite you to take a moment and reflect on the new seasons you are encountering and the things that will keep you rooted. going to clap for seasons. Yes. Turn, turn, turn. Some of y'all were around when that song came out. I ain't going to point to anybody, but some of you know nothing about that song, and that's okay too. Hey, so before I get to our guest storyteller, because if you're new here, you need to know that every single Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house to share with us some of their experience, strength, and hope around the topic at hand. In this Rooted series, next week we're going to talk about fear. Are you rooted in running or facing your fear? And then the next week, I was thinking about this because I'm looking at Riley, who is here. She's going to be our guest storyteller in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about anger, and the medicine for anger is forgiveness. Are you rooted in forgiveness? Are you rooted in actually facing your anger rather than running from it? But before we get to the next weeks, I want to introduce to you my friend and brother, Brandon Nelson. And before we clap for Brandon, who's our guest storyteller tonight, let me just say a few words about him. Brandon has been sober since December of 2020. Brandon and his family, did they leave? They left, dude. That's not supportive of them for you. Nah, I'm just kidding. Lauren, I'm kidding. Lauren was here last service. Brandon and his family started coming here shortly after he got out of rehab. And man, what I love about Brandon when we meet, when we talk, this dude, I'll just say it plainly, he's a 12-stepper. He's in recovery and works this stuff like his life depends on it because he knows that his life actually depends on this stuff. He is one of the most humble and gentle and honest and vulnerable men that I have in my life. And so I'm really honored that he's here with us tonight and part of this community, and just as honored to call you friend and brother. So help me welcome Brandon Nelson to the living room.
Test? Cool.
Yeah. So, Brandon, we get to do this again. We did it at 5 o'clock, but let's do it again. And, yeah. Dude,
well, thank you for that intro. It touched me at 5, and it touched me again here because you're a huge, huge part of my recovery, and free is a huge, huge part of my recovery. Yeah. So those words that you just spoke really mean a lot to me. So thank you.
Well, I bet them. And what you need to know about Brandon, why I asked him to come tonight, want to talk with us about some spiritual principles that keep you rooted, because Brandon has encountered some new seasons in his recovery, and he's going to speak to that. But first, Brandon, I want to start with you. Before you got sober, you spent a couple of years, like a year and a half-ish, in this season, maybe y'all have been there, and attempted controlled drinking. And Brandon says this season was actually necessary for him. And why do you say that season? Well, first, what it looked like, and why was it necessary?
Yeah, so it's a lot brighter now that the sun's gone down, so it's harder to see. But what the reason that it was necessary for me to go through is because there's a part in the big book that talks about the hard drinker or heavy drinker as opposed to the true alcoholic. And when in 2019 in January, I had an intervention with my family, and they had the intervention for me. Yes. And I remember in that intervention feeling like if I said no to going to rehab, maybe they had a Denver police officer outside waiting to take me to jail if I said no to rehab. So I said no to rehab. I said yes to rehab. But what I remember in that time in rehab was I read in the big book that depiction between the heavy drinker and the true alcoholic. And I was convinced that I was the heavy drinker. And so I got out and I got 93 days sober. I didn't really sit with a sponsor. I listened more to the differences than the similarities. And when I got 93 days, I was like, see, an alcoholic couldn't get 93 days without working a program. And so I went out and I drank for another 18 months. And God used that to absolutely obliterate any thought of my mind that I am not a true alcoholic. And I needed that to get what I've heard a lot of people in this community and in the rooms say, gift of desperation.
Yeah. Now tell us about, because I thought it was such an important and very simple story. You said it was a Saturday afternoon. You and your wife Lauren were with friends, and you had 3 Trulies. Now, Trulies were not around when I was drinking, thank God. I know some of y'all know what Trulies are. Brandon knows what Trulies
Yeah.
are. Tell us that story, though, because I think it's so important for the loved ones in the room.
Yeah. So, so we went to some friend's house down in Colorado Springs one Saturday, and we just watched college football. It was just our family and this other family, and there were 4 kids. And the adults did some very normal drinking. And they drank like 2 or 3 Trulies each. And I consumed 2 or 3 Trulies. I don't consider myself a part of the adults that day, but I did drink with the adults, only 2 or 3 Trulies. And man, that just got me to where I just wanted to do this thing for real. I didn't want to just, that did not sit well with me. So we got in the car at the end of the day, and it was in the evening, and we were driving home, and Lauren was in the front seat. And, you know, she just had a really good time with friends, and was like, hey, we watched a little college football. It was a great day. And she's talking and kind of reminiscing on the day. And while I'm driving, I'm just like, I just remember just staring at the clock on the dash, just like seeing that the hour was getting closer to when the liquor stores were going to close. And, you know, she had no idea what was going on in here, because she had a really great time with friends. And I'm over here just obsessing, feeling it in my body where I just want more. I want more. And so I turned the car from us going home. I changed direction, and Lauren was like, where are you going? And I go, oh, I'm going to go hit the liquor store. And she was like, why? And I was like, I'm just going to get some whiskey, you know, just have a few whiskeys tonight. And now, like, I didn't know what was going on in that moment, but now having a little bit of time in recovery, I now understand that it says in the big book that alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful. But that is also a story that shows that it's also cunning, baffling, and powerful for the loved ones, because she didn't know what was going on. She didn't understand why I needed to go get another bottle. And and I mean, I think I was up till 2 or 3 in the morning finishing it off. I mean, getting the job done.
And I thought it was such a powerful story because and maybe I think some of y'all resonate with it too, but it made sense to me because I can't tell you how many times Tammy would ask me that question, why?
Yeah.
Like, aren't you full? You got drunk last night. Why again tonight? Like, it's just that question of why that she couldn't understand because she wasn't like us. So I love how it's described as cunning, baffling, powerful, not just for us, but for the loved ones watching in. Cunning, baffling, and powerful for them too. So Brandon, you went to another treatment center.
Yeah.
You got sober and you stayed connected to your recovery. So I don't want to go through the whole thing of you getting sober, but I want to hear now in your recovery, you're in a new season.
Yeah.
You have left something old. You left your job and you started this new thing. And tell us what that's been like and some of the things that are keeping you rooted in the midst of this new season.
Yeah, so I was a little over a year sober, and I'd gotten in the rooms. I'd started taking the suggestions, started working with a sponsor, and I had turned 40, and I just started to be like, you know, I'm tolerating some really in like work environments that I probably shouldn't be tolerating, and I started to get these seeds were planted in my mind where I was like, maybe if I start applying the same things that I did to get sober, but to like my profession and the way that I make my money, maybe God can transform that part of my life as well. And so I started talking to my sponsor, and I was just up a wall with the work environment that I was in, and we were outside of a big book meeting that we go to on Tuesday nights. And he was like, man, it's just a job. Like if it's not working, just find something else. And I was like, all right, well, how? And he was like, make a plan, work your plan, and trust God. And it just opened my mind to a whole new level of possibility. And so that's what I did. And it's kind of a long story, but so now we are full-time investors. We're not business owners, but full-time investors.
It's almost like a lawyer told you
yeah,
to say that.
a lawyer told me to say that. So, but like right now we're in the middle of a project, and we are actually kind of in a pretty stuck spot with it. And like what I am really good at is praying. Like because I don't shut up, so I pray a lot.
Yeah.
And my sponsor was like, when you're praying, that's when you're talking to God. But when you meditate, that's when you're listening to God. And I realized that I wasn't listening to God. I wasn't listening to the answer or the solution to come in, because I was like that person that you were describing, where I felt like I had to like set the pillows out, and I had to like put the YouTube channel on that like did the meditation, sounds. And what by trying to like perfectly meditate, what that ended up actually doing was just me not meditating. So I started to realize like I didn't have to do all that. So now I actually just kind of equate meditation to like getting connected to my breath, and just getting a chance to kind of slow down and listen to God.
Yeah. And in fact, when we met this week, Brandon walked in. He didn't know the scripture I was using tonight because I didn't know it. He helped me understand which scripture I was going to use tonight. But he said, and he's going through some things. We don't have to talk about all that. But he said, yeah, when I was walking in, I just took a minute to meditate and to be aware of my breath and to, I don't know how else you describe it, but it was such a simple moment, which gave me the reminder, meditation can be these really simple moments we have in life along the way. We're just taught meditation's got to be this perfect setting.
Yeah, I was getting like one thing that I found that I do is I will future trip, and I'll start to create problems in the future that haven't happened yet, and then I will actually try to solve those problems that aren't happening.
You see how sick he is?
So meditation is a necessity for me because it gets me quiet, gets me to a place where, what is real right now, and getting into relationship with basically accepting what is my reality right now. And that moment that you're talking about was I was having this thought of like, well, what if this happens at this, and how do we, and then I just was like, God, I gotta get in touch with my breath. And it was like almost immediately God just like sent me this message, like, if any of that happens, Brandon has no idea how to handle that, but God has the power to handle that. And it just like totally like just put me into such a more serene place, because I was like, exactly, if any of that does happen, God will take care of us. God will give us a solution. But if I'm up here, I'm usually running the show, and my meditation and breath gets me here, and then I can start to hear the solution come in from there.
Yeah. Now, Brandon, God is an interesting thing for you.
Yeah.
Because you are a PK.
Yeah.
Do you all know what a PK is? Pastor's kid.
Pastor's kid.
I have 4 PKs now. So, but that was an interesting thing coming into recovery for you because, well, you tell them.
Yeah. So full transparency. I was, so this last round of rehab, I came down the stairs, and I said to Lauren, I said, I have to own that I'm not just an alcoholic, I'm also an addict, because early in my 20s, drugs were the central part of my story. Crack and cocaine were part of my story. So I came down the stairs and I just said to Lauren, I go, I have to own that I'm an addict, and whiskey is just my drug of choice. And what it did was it was a new level of accepting my disease. But I just lost my train of thought.
God being a PK.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yes.
That's like my biggest fear right there. Just came, and hey, the world kept spinning, right? So, so yeah, just so like our therapist said, like, because I told her my withdrawal symptoms, and she was like, "You can't stop drinking till you're into rehab," and I was like, "Yes, now I get to drink how I want to drink," and so I was really messed up for that. I mean, I was really messed up before that, but I was really messed up that week going into rehab. So I don't remember exactly who I was on the phone with. I think I was on the phone with an old boss of mine, and he said to me, I still do remember, it was like a moment of clarity that I could hear this, but he was like, Brandon, you have to pull your relationship to religion, God, and your father apart. Because since my dad was a pastor, I had this freaking rat's nest of religion, God, and my dad just all wrapped in one. And it was such a transformative moment for me, because I actually started reading the book of Psalms in recovery, or I mean in rehab, and I hadn't touched the Bible for, I don't know, probably 10 years because of my resentment with unfinished resentments with my father, and morphed into religion that made me not want to have anything to do with God. But when I was able to separate them, it gave me the path to having an avenue to connecting with a higher power when I got into rehab this time.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's close with this. Tell us, I love that your family is part of this community. You guys started coming together. You said Free was a place where you could do recovery as a family. What's your family meant to you? Like when Chris shared in celebrations, he said, my daughter said to me, I get my dad back.
Yeah.
I know your kids said similar things to you.
Yeah.
In fact, we have videos of it.
Yeah.
What's that meant to you along the way now, 3 years later?
Well, my family is my home team. That's kind of the best way I can put it. I also, my daughter turned 15 yesterday, and I drove to her school because with this new business, I've got some time on my hands, which is a blessing. But I drove to her school, and I dropped her off some flowers and a balloon for her birthday, and then she texted me that you made my day, and then I texted her back. I said, you just made mine, and man, I'm kind of getting emotional thinking about that. But I had a friend that reached out and was like, man, that's the stuff we get to do in recovery.
Yeah.
If I'm drunk, maybe I have lost my job, so maybe I have time on my hands, but I couldn't talk to the security guard there because I would have had alcohol in my breath and I might go to jail. I don't know. So like recovery is a beautiful thing because I can be that dad now.
Yeah.
And Lauren and I talked when we were getting ready to make this move, and I said, I don't know if we're going to be successful, but I know I've got to try. And she said, I support you 100%. And that was when we said, as long as the four of us are together, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so far, so good.
Powerful, man. All right, dude, just in a closing, less than 30 seconds. For someone who's struggling with a new season, they're struggling to embrace it, they're in fear over it, what do you say to that person who's struggling with the new season?
So I would say get into the rooms, stay connected. Obviously, prayer and meditation have been huge for me because they connect me to my higher power. But one day at a time, it does get better, and the promises do come true. They have for me. I just spent a day on a golf course with people that were partying. And I thought when I got sober, I wasn't going to be able to play golf. Thought I wasn't going to be able to be around people drinking and have a good time while I was doing it. I did all those things a day without a drink, and I had a great time playing golf around people that were enjoying some cocktails. So it's possible, and the promises do come true.
Don't pick up a drink, Brandon.
Yeah.
Brother, I'm so glad you're part of this community. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. Brandon Nelson, ladies and gentlemen. Love you, man.
Love you, man.
I'll take that from you. All right, it's a 3-mic night because the way we close things down here at Free on a Saturday night is, I told you this at the beginning, we don't ignore the hard stuff. We close with heart aches. Because what we find every week here, and just like a lot of communities, we try to carry around burdens that are heavy. I mean, you try to do it on your own, and then you find out, man, I really suck at trying to carry this on my own. And so it's why we have community. We have a God that hears the cries of the people. It's why we have each other. So we take 3 minutes, again, a really important part of our time together to lift up burdens, things you're carrying, things you need prayer for, encouragement for, some uplifting. That's what these 3 minutes are for. And again, if you're online, just drop your heartaches in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments, and we'll heartache with you there. And Adam and Scott have a mic. We'll take 3 minutes. You can just slip up your hand if you have a burden.
I'm Brandon. I'm an alcoholic, and I just want to lift up my mom. We got some news this last week that she has been diagnosed with cancer, but we don't know much more than that. But just want to lift her up.
Yeah. Prayers for you and your mama. Thanks, Brandon.
Hey, I'm Chris, and just want to lift up my coworker Clay's daughter, Grace Hopkins. She's going to be deployed outside the country. She just finished her training and is now going to be deployed out. And I'm just going to lift her up and just hopefully get some prayers around Grace and her protection for helping us protect our freedoms.
Yeah. Prayers for her, man. Thank you, Chris.
You can pray for my mom and my sister so they can start talking again. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. Family relationships. Important one.
My name is Amber, and I just found out today that my dad is having spinal surgery on the 19th. So if we could just keep him in our prayers and that he make it through the surgery safely. Thank you.
All right. Amber, prayers for your dad. Thanks for sharing with us.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm an addict. I just wanted to lift up my daughter, Emma. She just turned 10 this last week, and I haven't seen her in a whole year because I've been in active addiction. And so I hope that we'll be reunited at some point.
Yeah, there's a lot of proof here tonight that can happen. A lot of people in this room, so prayers for you.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I just wanted to ask for prayers. There was a hit and run that was basically outside of our house or neighborhood. We came upon it, and it was terrible, and the person passed away. So I think that their family probably needs prayers.
Yeah. Lifting that family up.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. I'd like to lift up two people tonight. First is my cousin Tom. He had a heart attack on Tuesday and is fortunately doing well. Got to the hospital in time, but prayers for his continued recovery. And my mom had a stroke as well and is doing very well, but just extra prayers for her continued recovery. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee. Prayers for Tom, and you all should know also there's, and I guess I don't want to say their names because I don't know if they are publicly saying that yet, but there are people in this community who have lost loved ones this week to the battle of addiction. And so if we could continue to lift all of them up, I know it happens. Man, we get the heartaches in this community, and we get the celebrations, and they always walk together. And that is life, especially in this community. Thank you, Darren, for joining me up here.
Absolutely.
It's
I
good.
have one more.
You do?
I
Let's hear it.
do. If our friend Jim is out there, we miss you. We're praying that everything goes well with your family. Extremely proud of who you are. We love you.
Yes, you are missed here tonight. Jim in the cafe, you know, the big laugh Jim, the one that brings all kinds of joy in this community. Yeah, he's helping his mom. And so he'll be out for, I think, like 40
Couple
days,
months, yeah.
couple months. All right, Jim, we
and
hope
40
you come back.
nights.
40 days and 40 nights. He's trying to be like Jesus. All right, let's join our online community. Darren, you take the first one.
All right, first one's from Julie. Lost my beautiful daughter, Jessica, to fentanyl 2 years ago today. Asking for prayers for everyone affected by the disease of addiction. Love to you all. Our hearts are with you, Julie. Thank you for sharing.
Lots of love coming your way, Julie. Ricky says, I had to say goodbye to my dog of 14 years this week. I had him since he was a puppy, and he became part of my family. He is loved and will definitely be missed. Prayers for you, brother. Glad you're joining us tonight and lifting you up during this season of loss.
Next, we have Jen. Brandon's share really touched me, especially the part about his job situation. I'm currently going through some changes and not quite sure what the future holds, but I do believe that all things are possible with God. Asking for prayers to help me stay grounded and not to lose faith. Jen, our hearts are with you, and just remember, sometimes God takes things away so that he can bring you something beautiful.
Yeah. Prayers for you, Jen. Glad you're with us tonight. You and Christy. And happy 4 years. All right. Thank you, Darren. Well, y'all, I get asked every week to updates of where we are with our capital campaign, this Home at Last campaign. And I shared with you all last week, we're right around 850,000 towards our goal of 1.3 million to make this building our current permanent home, which some of y'all know what a big deal that is because this community knows what it's like to be on the verge of homelessness. So this will be our permanent home, and we are purchasing this building. The goal is to do it debt-free because, as you know, interest rates aren't exactly friendly right now. So we're around 850K. If you've been waiting maybe towards the end to, but you know you want to give, but you've been waiting towards the end to give to this campaign, now would be a good time to help close the gap if you are interested in doing so, if you feel compelled and called to that. And I will also say this, in the midst of any sort of campaign like that, you have to keep the thing running too, so general giving is still important. And I always want to invite you all into generous giving. There's a giving box here, and then there's one just outside these doors. And I know for many of you, you have made giving a part of your spiritual practice. It's become a sacrificial practice for you. And no, without your giving, we don't exist without you, the people. So thank you for being a part of it. It truly means a lot. And when a little comes together from a bunch of people, it actually makes a significant difference. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not the cash type people, but you're like online type people like me, well, there's 3 ways to do it. You can download the app. The app is Free Spiritual Community. It's free to download. It's got all the content on there. There's a giving button on there. If you want to give directly to the campaign, be sure you click on Home at Last, not General. Same thing on the website. You can go freespiritualcommunity.com, do the same thing, or text the number on your screen. It walks you through a very simple set of instructions, all safe, secure ways to give. And truly, your generous giving here helps keep the mission of breaking the silence of addiction thriving in the community and across the country. So thank you for being a part of it. Shall we go out with a prayer? I invite you to just open your hands. It's a simple practice of openness because sometimes God feels distant. And when you can open your hands and take a deep breath, it's almost like God saying, I can't get any closer. I'm in your breathing. So we're open to Spirit moving in our midst, in us, through us, and all around us. Brandon mentioned the serenity prayer and how powerful it's been in his life. It's been powerful in the lives of many. If you don't know the serenity prayer, it's on your screen. And it starts like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. So much grace and peace to you, my free brothers and sisters. See you next time.